Hello, everyone. This is Darcinovia here. This is my first impressions of the book Settlers by J Sakai. Now, who is J Sakai? What is Settlers? Well, I can't find anything on J Sakai at the moment, so I'll leave that for another video. Maybe if I get a group of people to talk about the book Settlers. What is the book Settlers? That is the important question. Because when you hear the book Settlers, especially if you're on the left, you get heated debates over it. And people that just outright basically tell you, don't read this book. It's written by a Fed. Don't read this book because of blah, 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 blah. Or people who haven't read the book, read this book because it blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. Either argument is reactionary. Because as communists, what are we supposed to do? What did Mao Zedong, told communists to do? Investigate, investigate, investigate. No investigation, no right to speak. If you don't investigate what settler is, you shouldn't talk about it. Does that sound harsh? Not in the slightest. If you take the words of somebody when they talk about settlers, that does not give you the right to talk about it. Because that's his opinion about it, not yours. If you're actually going to discuss settlers one way or the other, you should fucking read it and judge it for yourself. Is settlers, is there stuff that's problematic? Yes, there is. I think J Sakai overestimated America's loyalty to the country. The average American could give two shits about the empire. The average American could care less about America's wars. The most people who actually fight in the military do it for financial reasons. They don't do it for, I just want to go to Iraq to protect my country. Yeah, you do have psychopaths that do join the military to kill people, but they're not the majority of the population. And another thing that people forget about J Sakai's book, it's not written from a white leftist. It's written from the perspective of somebody that has actually suffered what the U.S. government has done to them. What Japanese Americans have suffered doesn't even compare to what the indigenous and black populations have suffered. And the person's view on America is going to reflect that. Now, those on the left who I don't understand why they would be, who still want to save America, will not like this book. In fact, they will fucking be scared about this book. And rightfully so. Settlers actually gets into detail why the white left has failed and why it has continued to fail. And anyone that says the white left has succeeded, well, that's arguable. That's pretty hard to say if they actually did succeed in their goals. Because every time they proved that they stood for something, they folded. They stabbed their Japanese comrades in the back. They did nothing when the United States invaded Puerto Rico in the 1950s. A lot of those things in this book basically argues is very difficult to refute. And that is the reason why the white left is scared of this book. Because Settlers, the book as a whole, has many valid arguments that's very difficult to debunk. That doesn't mean the book isn't wrong in certain areas. That doesn't mean there isn't some parts of the book that is undialectical. But as a whole, the book Settlers is something that I think every leftist should read, who are actually serious about fighting for socialism. Let's be honest here. If you don't investigate something, then you don't know what you're talking about, and you're just speaking nonsense. Settlers is a book I will revisit in the future. I have a bunch of stuff that I am going to read further, and then I'll revisit the book Settlers later. The book Settlers is not the end-all be-all when it comes to colonialism, when it comes to the history of America, the darker side of American history. There's other books that have been written, since this book came out that I feel like actually gets into more detail and actually gets more in depth than Settlers does. I would recommend reading Howard Zinn's The People's History of the United States alongside this, if you want to read the book Settlers. Though if you're a leftist, you should read it anyway, just so you could be informed about it. For those of you who are going to inevitably go in my comment section, call me a Sakaiist, because I say that J Sakai had a point, go fuck yourself. I'm serious. Unless you have read the book from front to cover, your opinion about the book is invalid. Unless you've fully investigated what this book is about, and stop listening to people who push for socialist billionaires about this book, I'm not going to listen to you or take you seriously. J Sakai had a point in the book Settlers. As a third worldist, I don't think this book is necessary to read, honestly. Because I've already read other sources that basically said similar things and did it better. Now, I'm not going to discourage you from reading the book Settlers, because I think even as third worldists should read the book so they can be informed on it. But communists, we are supposed to be above rightists when it comes to knowledge. And we can't freaking be a good example for leftists if we basically disregard something because it makes us uncomfortable. The whole point of learning is to be uncomfortable, is to look for the hard answers. And it's questions, questions, questions. We have to question everything we read. And just because you agree with the book Settlers, when you read it, doesn't mean you shouldn't question this. I had a lot of questions for Settlers. I still do. Which is why this isn't going to be a full review. This video is essentially, for me, giving my first thoughts about it. Settlers. Until you've read the book, you have no right to talk about it. This is Darcenovia. I'll see you guys later.